Welcome to Mrs. Neller's notes for her double block algebra class. These are the notes for section 1.5 entitled Translating Words into Mathematical Symbols. And today's objectives are going to be to translate a word phrase into a variable expression, translate a sentence into an equation, and to translate a sentence into an inequality. But before we can actually translate words into mathematical expressions or equations, we need to make a list of some of the words that mean add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So in English, in the English language, anytime we see a word that stands for addition, we have to be aware of it so we can make it addition in our equation. So some common words for addition are sum. If you're summing things together, you're adding them. More than, like I have $8 more than Donald Trump. Plus, there's also increased by. Whoops, sorry about that. Increased by. You could have added to. Or you could have in addition to. You could also have the word and. 5 and 3 is 8. You could have total. A total could be a lot of different things, but how many do you have total? If you were counting them all up, that would seem to imply addition. So this isn't a comprehensive list, it's just kind of a good start. And then we have some other words that mean the same thing as subtraction. Difference is the main one. Find the difference between 10 and 5. There's minus. The most important one, I'm going to put a little star by it, is less than. That's important because order matters in subtraction. So if you say, I have $8 less than Donald Trump, you want to make sure that you're taking the amount of money Donald Trump has and subtracting 8 from it, not taking my $8 and subtracting Donald Trump's money from it. That would be a huge negative number. Okay, so we'll talk more about that in a little bit. For addition, we have increased by. So for subtraction, we have decreased by. We also have take away. That's a very common one that you learn in the middle school or elementary school. You could have subtracted by. If we have added to, you could also have subtracted by. Left over could be a phrase that implies subtraction. How many are left over? That could also be division too, depending on what you're actually doing. And again, this isn't a comprehensive list. This is just some common phrases that you want to be aware of for addition and subtraction so far. Okay, so now let's do multiplication. The most common one for multiplication is product. The product of two numbers. Product is an answer to a multiplication problem. We also have times. You could have multiplied by. Of is probably the littlest word that implies multiplication. Half of something. You could also have those types of words like half or twice or double or triple. Those types of words could also imply multiplication. And for division, let me switch colors one more time here. Common words for division, there aren't many. The main one is quotient. When you have a quotient, that's an answer to a division problem. And you could have divided by, whoops, sorry about that. You could have divided by. You could also have divided into, because division, it depends which number's in the numerator or the denominator. So divided by would say a certain number is in the numerator and a different one's in the denominator. And divided into would flip-flop that order. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through some different examples of phrases and practice translating them. And you have to remember that order matters for subtraction and division. 5 divided by 2 is not the same thing as 2 divided by 5. Okay? And for subtraction, x minus 3 is not the same as 3 minus x. Okay? Um, you can add in any order and you can multiply in any order, but not for addition or subtraction. So that's why I put a little star on that chart by less than, because order matters, especially when you see that phrase less than. So your homework is going to have you translating some phrases into expressions, like here in example 1. And then in our next example, we're going to be translating some sentences into equations. So for part A here, we have 15 increased by a number. Now increased by, I believe that was on our list for addition. So this is going to be 15 plus a number. Now we don't know what the number is. And when we don't know what something is in algebra, we put a variable there. You can use any variable you want. You can use n, you can use x, you can use capital A for awesome, you can use lowercase q for quality, whatever. You just pick a variable. Sometimes they will tell you what variable to use. So if they tell you which one, then use that one. But otherwise, you can pick whichever one is your favorite. So for part B, I have 25 less than. Uh-oh. There's less than. This is a super duper special one. Okay? Order is going to matter here because less than is for subtraction. So you have to think, okay, do I want 25 minus a number? Or do I want a number minus 25? And this is a common one that students confuse all the time. So when we look at this phrase, it says 25 less than a number. That implies that we have a number, that we know what it is, and we're taking 25 away from it. So that means I want this expression here. I want n minus 25, not just a word-for-word translation of 25 minus n. So when you see the phrase less than, you kind of have to flip-flop where the number, actual number 25 is, and where your variable number, the word number, is. Kind of have to reverse your order there. Okay, for part C, we have the product of 17 and a number. So product, I know it has of in here too, but product is really the number that we want, or the word that we want to focus on, because that means multiplication. So we're going to multiply 17 and a number. 17 times n. Or you could just write it 17n. Your choice, with or without the little dot. For part D, the quotient is the word we want to focus on there. The quotient of 15 and a number. So here we're going to do 15 divided by a number. Okay, whenever you see quotient, you can translate whatever comes after it kind of word for word. You can go in that order. If you have divided by or divided into, that's where you really want to pay attention to which one goes in the numerator or the denominator. For part E, we have 6 more than 4 times a number. Ooh, so this is getting a little more complicated now. I see the phrase more than, which tells me I'm going to add. And I also see the word times, which implies multiplication. So I'm going to have 6 more than, so 6 plus 4 times a number. 4 times a number. Or you could write it 6 plus 4n. You don't have to have the little dot in between the 4 and the n. And for part F, the last one on this little section, it says 4 times the quantity of. Ooh, the quantity of. We didn't really talk about what that phrase meant. That wasn't in our chart. But what that means is parentheses. So that tells me that whatever comes after that phrase, the quantity of, whatever comes next, I'm going to put in parentheses. So I had 4 times, so that tells me I'm going to do multiplication. And then I also see minus, so that tells me I'm going to subtract. Now, when I see a number minus 12, that's kind of a literal translation. I can rewrite that with math symbols just like it is being read. So it doesn't say less than. I don't have to worry about order. Okay. But when I start this off, I'm going to go back to the 4 times. So I'll have 4 times, and the quantity is going to go in parentheses, a number minus 12. So a number minus 12. And again, you can leave it like that with the little dot, or you can do 4 parentheses and minus 12. So it looks a little bit more like distribution. So remember, the quantity of, that was a phrase that wasn't on our list on that little chart, but you will see it in your homework, and it was there in the notes. So now for example 2, this is our last example. We have A through E. Now we're going to translate the sentence into an equation or inequality. So now we're going to have equal sign, or we're going to have less than, or greater than, or less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So for part A, I have 8 times a number. So times means multiplication. Is going to be the key phrase that we want to look for when we're dealing with our equal sign. Is means equals. So if I have 8 times a number is or equals 56. There you go. Well done. For part B, I have 24 less than. Uh-oh, that one order is going to matter. 24 less than a number is greater than. Okay, is greater than. Whenever you see a greater than or less than attached to this little is out in front, that implies that you want the symbol, the inequality symbol, not a plus or a minus. Okay. So here we're going to have 24 less than a number. So that's going to imply subtraction. And here order matters. So I got to kind of flip-flop my number and my 24. It's not going to be a literal translation where I can just go word by word. So I need a number minus 24. 24 less than a number. I'm taking 24 away from that number. Is greater than, so then I'll use my greater than symbol, 5. For part C, I have 20 divided by, okay, so that's going to be my division. 20 divided by a number is less than. So there again, you see that is, and then you have the less than that comes after that. Actually, it's less than or equal to. So that tells me I'm going to need an inequality symbol, not a subtraction. So 20 divided by a number. 20 divided by a number. Now you can write it like a fraction, or you can write it with a little divide symbol. Either way, it's completely accurate. Is less than or equal to. So now I need my less than or equal to symbol. So you need that little line under the less than, 2. For part D, I have the quotient of a number and 50 is 3. So I see the word quotient. Again, that implies division. And then I have is for equals. So So I don't have any is less than or is greater than, so I'm not going to use an inequality symbol. I'm going to use an equal sign. So this will be an equation. So the quotient of a number and 50. So again, I'm going to have some number divided by 50 to get my quotient. Is means equals 3. And part E, Connor's height, C. Now here they tell you the variable that they want you to use for Connor's height, so we have to use a C. So Connor's height is 6 inches more than Aubrey's height, A, and that's the variable that they want you to use for Aubrey's height. So this more than, this is going to imply addition. And I also see the word is, so that's going to be an equal sign. So Connor's height, C, is 6 inches more than Aubrey's height. So there you have it. You have an equation with two variables that you substituted in. So once they tell you Connor's height, you could figure out Aubrey's height, or once they tell you Aubrey's height, you could figure out Connor's height. So again, all you're going to be focusing on in tonight's practice set is translating and getting used to rewriting a phrase as an expression or a sentence as an equation or an inequality. If you have any questions, come in before school and see either me or Mrs. Zucker. Good luck. Do well.